Om Tat Sat. Divine blessings to everyone who's attending this evening for Thursday Yoga Vasistha Satsanga. Apologies for not going live last week. While I was dealing with some health, everything is okay again. Please let me know if my signal goes in or out. Please let me know if you're able to hear me. If it goes out again, I'll have to check the Wi-Fi. Okay, we will get started. Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya Dilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Traguna-rahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Adorations to the Divine Preceptor, who is the bliss of Brahman, the giver of supreme joy, the embodiment of pure consciousness, beyond the pairs of opposites, vast like the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond all modifications. To that divine Guru I offer my adorations. Om Shri Guruve Namaha. And then this is the prayer for universal welfare. Sarvesham swastir bhavatu, sarvesham shantir bhavatu, sarvesham purnam bhavatu, sarvesham mangalam bhavatu, sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukbhaga bhavet, asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamaveva Shishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And this translates to, may there be good health for all, may there be peace for all, may there be fullness and contentment for all, May there be auspiciousness for all. May all be happy. May all be free of troubles. May all see what is good. May sufferings end for all. O Lord, lead me from unreal to real. Lead me from darkness to light. Lead me from death to immortality. Om, that Brahman is full, infinite. This, the world process, is full, infinite. From that fullness of Brahman, this fullness of the world process has proceeded. When this fullness is taken away, what remains is full. Om, may there be peace, peace, peace. Om, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And I'll start with a quote from Guruji Swami Nikhilananda's book that he published last year, The Art of Spiritual Living. The divine law of karma, cause and effect. We enjoy the design and architecture of beautiful buildings. We also admire the architect who created the design and was instrumental in constructing the building. As intelligent beings, we know there cannot be an effect without a cause. Much in the same way, nature, along with all its wonders, is an effect. Therefore, there must also be a cause, a creator. We can physically see the beautiful rivers, mountains, valleys, oceans, green grass, and all kinds of life forms, including ourselves. It is this cause that has created this entire cosmos. We may call it God, universal energy, Brahman, or any name that suits our beliefs and values. The study of this cause is what we call spirituality. Different paths are adapted to connect with this cause. Selfless service of humanity, devotion, meditation, and scriptural study are all effective means towards this thirst for connecting with the Creator. It is by introspecting upon the known that we can eventually realize the unknown. Our body, mind, intellect, etc. all become effective instruments in our quest towards this journey. The human body becomes a laboratory for practicing meditation, studying spiritual books, associating with higher-minded people and groups, etc., to realize the goal of connecting with the inner self and God. There is a divine law that governs our outcome. Therefore, think wisely, be conscious, and introspect upon your choices before making a decision. And that was from Guruji Swami Nikhilananda's book of Art of Spiritual Living, which is on Amazon. And tonight we will be studying Yoga Vasistha, Book 1. And this scripture you can get on yrf.org. And this is a very, very large scripture, one that takes a really long time to go through. And we are very blessed and very lucky that Swami Jyotirmayananda of Yoga Research Foundation in Miami, Florida, translated the whole scripture. It's actually a 2-book series, so these are very, very thick books, and there's 2 of them. But I highly recommend getting them if you're studying the scripture, because there's also pictures and references to other writings that he did and other scriptures. So this evening we are picking back up where Sri Rama was being directed and taught by Sage Vasistha on the illusion of destiny and how we can't rely on destiny and It's our self-effort that we put into our embodiments and life and our choices and our thoughts. And then the result and the outcome of that is like what we would call destiny. But to rely on destiny alone, like sitting back and relying on it, or blaming destiny for our circumstances or our environment that we find ourselves in, is an illusion. So we're on page 131, and we're in the section Mumukshu, Vyavahara, Prakarana, which is the section of the behavior and actions of a seeker of truth, which is what all of us are when we're attending satsanga, aspirants and devotees. And so section 9 is called the Illusoriness of Actions and the Reality of the Self. Sri Rama asked, "O sage, you know all spiritual mysteries. Is this destiny, Deva, real or unreal?" So Deva is destiny, and he's wanting to know, is it real or unreal? Because in the previous section, Sage Vasistha was guiding Sri Rama to not be deluded by the illusion of destiny, and to take recourse only to self-effort and putting in your self-effort. And so for us, that would be in our daily actions and our choices and our thoughts and what we do on a daily basis, as well as our own spiritual journey or religious journey, and putting in that self-effort, because that's how you're going to see results in whatever you're doing. Sri Vasistha explained, self-effort alone is real. So it's only the self-effort that is real. It's not destiny. It is by self-effort that you possess this body, which means when you think about all of the different embodiments that we've had, which could be millions, thousands, hundreds, we have no idea. But it is through the self-effort or the lack of self-effort, through all these different embodiments that we've had, and it has led up to the point of having this current human embodiment. Destiny does not perform anything. It is imagined by the dull-witted. And so when you think of people that sit back and they blame destiny for their circumstances or what they're going through, or if things aren't working out. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to shake the phone on my desk. It's wobbling. When you think about destiny in that manner, it's kind of talking and acknowledging destiny as like this individual thing that exists, that you can put blame on, that destiny is the cause that we're stuck in this situation, or XYZ happened, or whatever. But destiny is illusory. Destiny isn't performing any actions. Our physical body, our soul, in this current context, we can go deeper into it, but for right now, I'll say that we're performing actions, although technically we're not the doer. But for this alone, just to explain it, so destiny isn't performing the action, so we can't blame destiny. We're the ones making conscious choices, and so what the results are is based on the choices that we have made. When one's self-effort has determined a course of movement, it is termed destiny by the unthinking mind. Just as one perceives blueness in the sky due to illusion, so one imagines destiny in the workings of one's self-effort due to ignorance. And so when you think about, like, if you think about going through into like outer space or going up in an airplane, and when we're on the ground and you look up and we can say, oh, the sky is blue, it looks blue. But when you're going up into the sky, we're not going through any blueness. We're not actually going through a color. And so it's like an illusion. And so the comparison of that is how we perceive blueness in the sky due to illusion. So one might imagine destiny in the workings of one's self-effort due to ignorance. And so blaming destiny for what's going on in their life when it's actually the person or us, we're being ignorant and we're trying to avoid blaming ourselves. And that's a very common human behavior, is kind of blaming anything and everything other than ourselves and taking ownership over our own actions. When a person asserts that he is led to good and evil actions by destiny, he is indulging in erroneous knowledge. And so it's just kind of crazy talk to assert that, oh, like, I'm a crappy person because of destiny, that's just how I am. Or I'm horrible at XYZ, or I can't do math, or I can't do science, that's just how I am. That is another form of just blaming destiny instead of taking ownership of the situation, making the conscious choices to make things better. It is his own self-effort of the past that asserts itself in all his inclinations and movements. By placing blame on destiny, he justifies his present lack of self-effort. So our own self-effort in previous embodiments from the past, that self-effort has asserted itself to kind of like present itself. And that is why we are in the situation or the environment or how we are today, is because of all that self-effort or lack of self-effort in previous embodiments. Sri Rama asked, if the past karma becomes the destiny of the present embodiment, how is it possible to consider destiny non-existent? And so that's a really good question that Sri Rama brings up, because when you look at destiny as something like separate, and we're looking at, okay, our past karma is what's fructifying and coming to life and blooming, whatever word you want to use. And that is what is pulling us into the current situation, the current events, the current happenings of the embodiment. So he's wanting to know, how can we just ignore the concept of destiny if it's like the byproduct? So Sri Vasistha replied, you must understand the true nature of things. And this is where it's kind of like peeling back the layers of an onion. There arise subtle desires, vasanas, in the mind due to the veil of ignorance, which is avidya. These vasanas, the subtle desires, convert themselves into physical and vocal actions. As one thinks, so he speaks and acts. And so we all have these vasanas, and these are subtle desires that they arise in the mind, the things that we want to do, or how we want to be, or how we want to look, or things we want to attain and have and get, just all different types of desires. And because of our ignorance, we go after these things, seeing them as sources of happiness, or seeing them as sources of pleasure and joy. And so because of the vasanas, that is kind of like, if you think of the vasanas in the mind, and then that triggers the senses, so our physical and our vocal action. So these vasanas is causing someone to, okay, I'm going to grab my wallet, I'm going to grab my car keys, I'm going to go shopping. Or the vocal actions, they can have negative thoughts in their head, and they could be really angry, and it comes out in their words, and they can say harmful words to somebody. And so as one thinks, so he speaks and acts. So our mind, it's like if your mind is filled with constant negative thinking and negative dwelling on things, this is gonna manifest and show itself in how we behave and how we talk, not just about others or other things or events, but it can also manifest and show itself in how we talk about ourselves and how we feel about ourselves too. As is the nature of the vasanas, so is the type of activity that proceeds from an individual. Actions follow the vasanas of the mind. So the vasanas, the subtle desires, when we have these, that is what is going to lead the individual to participate in an action for whatever that subtle desire is. Destiny is nothing but the fructification of one's own karmas. Karmas are nothing but subtle desires of the mind. These subtle desires are mere waves of the mind, and the mind is nothing but pure consciousness when the illusion of desires is negated. Therefore, the concept of destiny is illusory. So when you peel back all these layers and you take it back and you look at, okay, destiny, and if we want to look at how destiny came around or came to be, then you can look at your karmas. And your karmas, well, what are they? Karmas were because of subtle desires that came from the mind. Well, what are subtle desires? The subtle desires are waves in the mind, and the mind is nothing but pure consciousness. And so when the illusion of the desires are negated, it all comes back down to pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is the reality behind the mind. That consciousness is Purusha, the self. Therefore, self-effort, Purushartha, which is meant to reveal the nature of the self in man, is supremely powerful. So self-effort meant to reveal the nature of the self in man is supremely powerful. There is nothing impossible for self-effort. May your self-effort be auspicious, O Rama. So behind everything, when we take it all back and you peel back all these layers of our actions and our thoughts and our karmas and embodiments and environments and situations and just everything, you pull everything back, just pull back all the layers, and it all comes down to pure consciousness, Purusha, the self. Sri Rama asked, if a person is led by the subtle desires of his past life, what can he do but experience his dependence on the past karma? So that's a really good question. So if we're being led by subtle desires of a past life, a past embodiment, and say that those past desires and past karmas are now what's happening in our current human embodiment. That's what we're experiencing. So he's saying, how can we not be depending on past karmas if we kind of are? I am made to dance by my previous vasanas. How can I experience the freedom of myself? And so what Sri Rama is struggling with is, right now, in the moment, how can I say that I am free and there is freedom of the self when right now, in this moment, I'm basically like a puppet due to vasanas from my previous embodiment. And so if you think of all our previous embodiments, and they have like strings attached to how we are right now, and we're all kind of like dancing puppets. So Sri Vasistha explained, O Rama, you also developed the inclination towards spiritual movement on the basis of the vasanas that are operating at present. The mere presence of vasanas does not obstruct your spiritual movement. And so for Sri Rama and the vasanas that are operating for him, that is what is going towards developing this inclination towards spiritual movement. And that's why he's having all these questions, and then previous karmas and vasanas has led him to where he's at right now. And so he's putting all these puzzle pieces together and starting to understand everything. But Sage Vasistha is explaining to Sri Rama that the presence of his vasanas are not obstructing his spiritual movement, whereas for other people, depending on the type of vasana, and we're about to explain that, they can actually obstruct your spiritual movement. So this is where it explains, sorry, my back is itching. There are two types of vasanas, auspicious and inauspicious. If your previous vasanas are auspicious is good. You do not have to fight against them. So they're not going to be a problem. Auspicious is good. Auspicious is positive. It's supportive. You will be led by them towards the fulfillment of your self-effort in the form of liberation. And so all those vasanas are supportive on the path to self-realization, liberation, God realization, whatever terms you want to use. And so it's supportive of that. But if you are backed up by inauspicious vasanas, which would be like negative or bad, you must conquer them by the intensity of your present self-effort. So if we have a lot of inauspicious vasanas from our previous embodiments, then that means that we need to be putting in a lot more self-effort in our current embodiment if we are walking that path of the goal of liberation, or beyond that, the goal of attaining union with God. And so you have to be consistent, and you have to put in that self-effort, and it's different for every person, and so there's no point in judging. Some people can put in a whole bunch of self-effort. Others are only able to put in a little bit of self-effort, and this is in regards towards like your spiritual practices. But self-effort there's so many different ways of putting self-effort into your journey and working your spiritual practice and disciplines into your daily life, even if you have a really busy life like outside of your house because you're working long hours or you're traveling. I know some people who they travel for work, and even on the airplane they're doing their japa practice with their mala beads. There's other people that while they're teaching at school, they're thinking of God, and even thinking of God during this time is an auspicious action, and it's still putting in self-effort while you're doing your duty. You're doing your worldly duty by working. So if we're backed up by inauspicious vasanas, so if we have like negative desires from the past, we need to conquer them with more intensity of our present self-effort. You must overcome the negative tendencies of the mind by taking recourse to good association and study of the scriptures. And I really like this saying because for me, and I know for many other people, the practices and the lifestyle of Sanatana Dharma, what modernly is called Hinduism, but it's actually Sanatana Dharma. It's actually so supportive of our mental health and overcoming so much that can happen in our life in a positive way, and keeping a positive mindset. And we can go through a complete like overhaul of our personality. And I know for me personally, this is my 5th year of walking this path. It does change you. It does change your life. It changes your outlook on everything, and it changes your personality, like inside and out, but not in a bad way, because like for me, I was always really negative, like any situation, and I was one of the people that would be more acting like the victim of circumstance, the victim of situation. I did blame destiny. I did blame the cards that were dealt to me, not realizing you're playing solitaire by yourself. You're the one dealing the cards. Like, you put the cards there, nobody else did, so it's up to you what to do with them. And so we have this great opportunity when we come across this in our journey to overcome our own negative tendencies of anger or jealousy, or if we're a really anxious or stressful person, if we're always doomsday thinking, negative thinking, always looking at the what ifs, even as simple as wanting to be a better parent, and wanting to be more present with your children, or being a more present spouse or friend or coworker, or having more compassion. It teaches us all of these things. And so we're able to overcome these negative tendencies, and we take recourse to good association, which means that the people that we're associating ourselves with are positive to what we're working towards. And so satsanga, like what we're doing now, is positive and it's supportive. And although we're online, we're surrounding ourselves with like-minded individuals. And then study of scriptures. So that's what we're doing now. We're studying the scriptures. And it can also be any scriptures. You can be studying the Bible and the teachings of Jesus. And that is still supportive. It's still positive. It's still something good. It's auspicious. The river of Vasana flows either through the course of auspiciousness, leading one to the attainment of liberation, or through the course of inauspiciousness, leading one to the increasing illusions of the world process. So the river of Vasana, which is our flow of thoughts and desires in the mind, they can either lead us to good things and supportive things of the spiritual journey. So good association, study of scriptures, meditation, things like that, working on our inner self. Or it can take another path where we are falling more worldly minded and falling for the illusoriness of worldly objects and seeing worldly objects as the source of our joy, the source of our happiness, although that is not what's true. One may train his mind just as he would train a child and discourage it from its movement through the course of inauspiciousness. And so this is why our self-effort is so extremely important, and to be consistent in our self-effort. Our self-effort might change from time to time in the amount that we're able to do each day. Some days are going to be different than others, but it's the consistency which is key, and putting in the effort of, okay, I know I can put in 5 minutes right now, so I'm going to put in 5 minutes. And it's just being consistent in whatever amount of time that you have. And it's your thoughts also, and the truthfulness behind your effort too. You're not just doing it to get it done and over with, or to check off a box on a to-do list. You're doing it because you have that desire to connect with God in reading your scriptures, or praying, or meditating, or singing devotional or worship songs. So we can train our mind just how you would train a child. So when you think of upbringing of children, and when you're teaching them something, you have to do it over and over, and then they grasp the concept, and then they get used to it, and things become habits. Like when you start teaching them to brush their teeth every day, and you consistently keep doing this, and they keep putting in the self-effort, and then it becomes habit, it becomes natural. And so we're still the same way. We can train our mind to put in the self-effort of moving away from things that are inauspiciousness. So a simple example could be changing maybe some of the music that you listen to, and instead of listening to music that have some heavy, dark, or negative lyrics to them, try listening to something that's more uplifting and happy or joyful music. Or if you're watching TV or movies, instead of watching murder movies or horror thriller movies or things like that, maybe try to find a movie that's more uplifting. And so you're just finding that balance, and then you're repeatedly training your mind. And so you're changing your habits, and you're changing over time, your personality and how you are. When the mind moves along with the egoistic vision, generating attachments and desires, then this erroneous movement must be curbed again and again. And so the mind is like the monkey mind. So it's always like all over the place. And so you have to keep training it over and over and bringing it back. And when you're working with your own ego, and you're working with your own desires and your own attachments, these are things that they can be so deeply ingrained due to how the society is that we grew up, but how, like, what type of family we grew up in. There's so many different reasons, and different types of attachments and desires. And so you have to repeatedly, like, bring the mind back, bring the thoughts back again and again, and reminding yourself of like what path you're wanting, what path you're choosing to take in this current human embodiment. And so you're just curving it again and again and again, and eventually the mind is like, okay, like, I give up. And having discouraged the mind from flowing towards the illusions of the world, one must allow it to flow towards the self through good association, study of scriptures, reflection, meditation, and samadhi. And so once we're discouraging our mind, if you're discouraging the mind away from something, at the same time we're going to have to give it something else to go towards. So kind of like if you think of children, again, you're redirecting. So don't go this way, but look at this, come this way. This is good. This is entertaining. This is fun. And so we kind of have to treat ourselves the same way. And when we discourage our mind from going towards the illusoriness of worldly objects or attachments, and the mind just starts going and going, we need to know what we're going to redirect it towards and attach it to. So we can do that by knowing to turn to the scriptures, turn to meditation, turn to thoughts of God and reflection. By repeated effort, Shubhvasanas, auspicious subtle desires, can be intensified. So the auspicious subtle desires, which are the good ones, the positive, supportive ones, when we have repeated effort and we keep putting in the self-effort, we can intensify the good subtle desires. And so the mind, in a way, and the soul, it begins to crave this goodness. And I know some of you can definitely relate to probably like within the first year of the journey into Sanatana Dharma, and you're getting into the scriptures and you're attending satsanga, and it's almost like an addiction. Like, you do begin to crave it, because when you attend it and you're listening, you're reflecting, you're learning, and you're going deep within the studies, it just keeps pulling you in and in and in. And so even if you, like last week, I wasn't able to do the live video, and even that threw me off. And I know from prior years when I haven't been able to attend weekly satsanga, or it wasn't being held that week for whatever reasons, it like, you miss it because you're craving it. And so it's because of repeated efforts of doing these things, and our subtle desires are intensified. So when you are backed up by the Shubhvasanas, you move on the path of spiritual attainment with an increasing sense of spontaneity. And so over time, this craving for these auspicious activities that we participate in, and our spiritual disciplines and our practices, they become natural to us. They become like a habit. They're part of our personality and who we are, and it is like spontaneous. So like with mantras, you can find yourself doing mantras at any moment, at any time, no matter where you're at. And it can be very spontaneous. And it's what your mind is turning to in that moment. Even when you are still confused regarding the efficacy of good actions, you must continue to perform them. So even if there isn't a good understanding of the topics and how all this comes together and makes this big picture, like this big puzzle. So even if it's still confusing and you're wondering like, okay, I'm doing all this good stuff, but I don't see anything with my eyes. I don't see anything coming from it. I don't feel any different. Like, this doesn't make sense. So if you're feeling that way, just keep on going. Keep pushing through. Keep performing them. Because even if there are no fruits from good actions, what harm is there? So there's never any harm in doing good. And I see Sada Shivaji a little while ago said, do good, be good. And yes, that is absolutely true. Like, do good, be good, love all, serve all. Because there's literally no harm in doing so. There's no harm in it. And so even if there's no fruits, which is in regards to the result. So a fruit is a result of an action. So even if there's no result and we don't have like some benefit or tactile benefit or whatever, like what harm is it in doing good? What harm is it in opening a door for somebody? What harm is it in picking something up that somebody might have dropped in the parking lot and giving it back to them? What is the harm in letting someone go in front of you in line at the grocery store? Like, there's no harm from these good actions. You might not be getting money from these good actions. You might not be, here's a cookie, but they're still good things, so you may as well do them. But if there are fruits in the form of the intensification of good vasanas, you will be led to self-realization. Stupendous is this attainment. So if there are fruits from these good actions, the auspicious actions, and if there are fruits from these good vasanas, auspicious vasanas, then this supports us and leads us to self-realization. And this is a very, very high attainment. Even in worldly activities, repeated effort endows a person with an intensity of skill and mental concentration. This is applicable to all, whether a person is a child or an adult. Therefore, try again and again to promote good vasanas in your chitta, which is the mind. So even when you look at non-spiritual, non-religious stuff, you just look at plain old worldliness, even if you look at all of that, the repeated effort that someone is putting into whatever it is that they're wanting, whatever they're trying to attain, whatever they're trying to gain, whatever skill they're trying to learn or get good at, it comes down to that repeated effort. So behind all of this that we do, there's always either a repeated self-effort or there's going to be a lack of self-effort. So if we are trying again and again, and we are putting in our self-effort, our honest self-effort, and we are trying to promote the good vasanas, the good desires in the mind, then we are on the right path. And that is going to lead us to the attainment of self-realization, to the attainment of union with God. One must continue to cultivate good vasanas until intuitional knowledge of the self arises with the help of instructions from guru, study of scriptures, and practice of meditation. Having realized the self, you will rise beyond the Shubha vasanas as well. You will then abide in the absolute. And so we must continue, we must keep going and trying again and again and putting in this effort. And when you put in all this self-effort, the intuitional knowledge will come you will know it when it comes. You will know it when it develops. You will feel it in your very soul when this happens. But it is not going to happen from just sitting back. It's not going to happen by just reading words on a page without applying what you are reading. It is not going to happen without asking the questions and being guided by spiritual preceptors or our guru, and practicing meditation, pulling those senses inwards instead of letting them just run free like octopus arms everywhere, just grabbing at whatever worldliness the mind is wanting. And so bringing it all in, study the scriptures. There's so many different scriptures that can be studied. Just pick one up, choose it, read. Just get reading, put your nose in it. Doing all of this, and then having realized the self, that consciousness, and how I mentioned earlier, it's like peeling back the layers of an onion, and we just keep peeling back layers, peeling back layers, peeling back layers. And at the core of everything, we are always going to come back to pure consciousness, that self. And you will rise beyond Shavavasanas also, and then you will abide in the absolute. And so this is the end of section 9. This was a really good one. And Swami Jyotirmayananda has at the bottom of the page to also check out his book, Yoga Can Change Your Life. I have that one. It's also very, very good. You can purchase all of his books and the scriptures that he translated on yrf.org. And thank you for everyone who attended this evening's satsanga. My scripture is falling apart. They're all being held together by tape and rubber bands right now. Let's see. Facebook is acting really weird. Either that or my computer. Sada Sivaji, it's good to see you. Divine blessings. Om Tat Sat. I do need to message you soon when I have time. And to anyone else who was available and able to watch, divine blessings. And I hope everyone has a very good evening and a safe weekend. And you're very welcome, Sada Shivaji. It is enjoyable. I enjoy it. So, Om Tat Sat, divine blessings. Om Tat Sat.